Sorry about that. This is live prepper here. And I came across an article that's called All the Prepper in the World is Immaterial If You're Not Survived Long Enough for Your Supplies and Planet. Now, basically what he's talking about here is he's talking about how he's talked to people, initiated talking, and talking about their bug out location and firearms and freeze dried and homemade grown and all this stuff. But he says majority of you will die in a food supply collapse. And so he's talking about basically here uh, that while he says while I approve of some and I not approve of others I smirk at. I think it's time we have a discussion, particularly given the rather precocious nature of our global economics. Now, says the government attempts to protect certain powerful people and institutions, and that's the truth. We talk about that all the time. That these corporations and powerful individuals are being very well protected in situations, and the poor guys, I call them haves and have-nots. So the have-nots is left out in the cold, basically. More and more family businesses are shut down every day. It's just a big difference. Now, this is global economy is in a terrible mess, no way out without suffering. So he talks basically about during the Hitler time when a group full of soldiers come in and they rounded up thousands of people and put them in the boxcar. They just went, said here we are, here you go. You got a dozen or so soldiers, and he says, but one person standing up, he would probably end up dead. But if you have all of those people stand up and say we're not going to go, says yeah, maybe 100 or two or so may die, but you're still standing up and you're saying, you're overrunning this group of soldiers. But what happens is they got loaded up. So certainly death is awaiting most of them. Now, he says how to live and survive when your country enters an economic collapse. Same thing here as talking about the other. Most people are going to follow in like sheep. I've talked about sheep. They're going to follow like sheep. They're not going to sit there. That's what's going to happen. They're going to be like sheep. And thinking, okay, everything's going to be fine, but it's not. They're going to get rid of the ones they think is definitely a threat. They're going to get rid of the ones they don't want to fool with, like the children or whatever, that and the very old. They're going to get rid of them. Bottom line. He says, how to live and survive when your country enters an economic collapse. So let's take a few relative examples. If you are on dialysis, for example, in the center or hospital area where you are happen to be unable to provide that service, you're incapable within a few days and dead within a few more. Now, that's what I'm talking about. This is also true if you are insulin dependent and lost either your insulin supply or refrigerator. And then there are those with even shorter timelines, those dependent on oxygen supplement, to name just one example. There's a lot of people are very dependent on these things here, and we, of course, like I've told you in the past, people in severe health issues are not going to survive and make it without these supplies. Of course, the very well-to-do and all that, they have all these supplies and stuff, and they will come closer to lasting longer than most would. But how long would they last after it runs out? Now, so if you are in one of these categories, that all the ordinary preppers' thoughts are utterly worthless. Some of these needs can be hedged against, but not all. Medical technology dependently is one of the worst because there is really no hedge available to people of ordinary means that is effective. As such, if you or someone you love is in such a situation, you need to give serious thought as to whether you can do something about that, and if you can, do it. If you can't, either due to bad luck or previous choices that you cannot reverse the effects of, then in my opinion, the rest of the discussion is not only pointless. But what he's saying is that unfortunately, many people are not in a situation where they can buy backup supplies. But there is people that can. That's what I'm saying. People who are able to do this. Now, if you've got insurance or whatever, and you can work it out with the doctor maybe to get you extra supplies to keep on hand at all times, through the insurance. If you're able to purchase an extra tank or whatever, if you are able to get a dialysis machine in your own home, that's something to think on, I think. But then if you cannot, and same thing with people on diabetes, on the insulin, keeping the insulin and have insulin choices here on natural herbs and things in that area. That's a lot to think about in that situation. How long can that person survive? I have a young man that works with me. It's a very nice job, but he's been a diabetic since he was born. So he has to constantly watch what he does. So this is a lot of things about people who are going through cancer treatments, who's got other health issues and stuff, liver disease, heart disease, anything here. That is something, you have to prepare for if you are prepared in that situation of trying to take care of your family and hoping that things will return to normal within a timely frame. Now, it says selected and preparing your vehicle survival kit. It's talking about that. Now, the survival kit here, most people, when they prepare it, says they've got them, but if you look at some of them, they've never walked 5 miles in their life. So, but what if you're 10, 20 miles, 30 miles from home, whatever, and you're trying to get home, and your pack's heavy, then, so then you have to need to think about that. You got to think about your supplies. You got to think about getting there. You got to think about the physical challenge. You got to think about other people in a situation. Are they going to try to take your backpack from you? Take your supplies? That's a lot to think about in your location. Are you physically able to get from point A to point B? Many people are forced or has to work 30 to 40 to 50 miles away from their home in so many cases, or they're having to go this here or that there, and you're that far away from your home and you're trying to get back to it. Are you physically able to do it? What do you have in your backpack? What knowledge do you carry? I mean, have you practiced? Have you actually put the backpack on and tried it? Have you walked with it? That is something to think of. Now, it says economic apocalypse, preparing for economic collapse. And then, so preparing, the thing is, I think we're basically in an everyday apocalypse now. We're in it every day already. We're seeing every day how things are changing, how values are changing, how ideas are changing, how the family unit is changing. Used to everybody sit down, they had their meals together. Used to, everybody pretty well canned and put up their food. They prepared their food. They bought in bulk or whatever. I grew up around kin folks that would often getting together and they would pitch in together, or they would have a crop somewhere. They would all pitch in together and buy 2 or 3 bushels of beans or whatever and prepare things. But that is really becoming a dying situation. I see the Amish and them coming in the vans and everything. They're in the stores and they're buying all this junk food. They're buying all this pre-made stuff, where before everything was raised, because society has changed in such a way that even they're changing and getting more into the environment. So that's something to think about on it. I mean, your health issue has a lot to do with it. There's one thing to have physical limits. If you have severe, if you need to think about if you're on oxygen for one of your family members, you need to think about trying to get extra oxygen supplies and keep on hand all the time. If they're on dialysis, you need to see about trying to get a dialysis machine in the home and learn how to do this. If they are a diabetic, you need to think about getting extra insulin and find alternative solutions and things to try to do in that situation. It's a lot to think about. And the physical health one. My physical health has limited me in many things, But at the same time, I'm struggling to try to keep going. I'm struggling to try to take care of myself. Am I aware that I cannot run like I used to because my knees are bad? Sure, I'm aware of it. But I am a survivor, and I try to take care of myself in the best possible way I can. So that's something to think of. Is debating on how you're going to survive in an economic collapse. Are you counting on the government to take care? Are you going to follow into that boxcar when there's just a dozen soldiers there? Or are you going to try to get away? Are you going to stand up against them? What is going to happen? It's a lot of what ifs, isn't it? So, this is Live Prepper here. I want you to be safe, be happy. Bless you all.